I never imagined that a forgotten laptop charger would become the key to unlocking a truth I'd been blind to for months. But before I tell you about that Wednesday afternoon in my wife's office, let me take you back to where the cracks first appeared. So subtle I mistook them for normal life adjustments. It all started 6 months ago, in August, when my wife Emma got promoted to senior marketing director at a tech firm downtown. My name is Marcus. I'm 32 and work as a physical therapist at a rehabilitation center in Portland. It's rewarding work, helping people recover from injuries, rebuild their strength. Emma is 31, driven, charismatic, the type who walks into a meeting and immediately becomes the center of gravity. We met through mutual friends at a hiking trip to Mount Hood. She was wearing a ridiculous oversized sun hat and complaining about the altitude. I offered her my water bottle. 9 years later, we owned a modest house in southeast Portland with a small backyard where Emma had started a vegetable garden she never maintained, and I'd taken over without comment. Our life was comfortable, predictable in the best way. Friday nights meant trying new restaurants or cooking together while listening to podcasts. Saturdays we'd hit the farmer's market, maybe catch a movie. Sundays were lazy, breakfast in bed, afternoon walks along the waterfront. We had our routines, our inside jokes, our shared history. I genuinely believed we were one of the lucky couples, the ones who made it look easy because it actually was easy. That's what I thought, anyway. The first change happened about 3 weeks after Emma's promotion. She started going to the gym before work. This wasn't entirely unusual since she'd mentioned wanting to get back in shape. But it was the specificity that struck me. She joined an expensive boutique gym across town, not the affordable 1-4 blocks from our house. When I asked why, she said the new place had better equipment and specialized classes that fit her schedule before the office opened. Then came the phone behavior. Emma had never been precious about her phone before. It usually sat on the kitchen counter while she cooked, face up, notifications visible. Now she carried it everywhere, even to the bathroom. She'd set it face down during dinner. When I glanced over while we watched TV, she'd angle the screen away, casually, like it was unconscious. One evening I asked if everything was okay at work, if she was stressed. She smiled and kissed my forehead, told me she was just adjusting to the new responsibilities and dealing with demanding clients who texted at all hours. The third shift was her appearance. Emma started dressing differently. Before, she'd been practical professional with slacks, blouses, and simple jewelry. Suddenly there were shopping bags appearing in our bedroom with designer labels I'd never seen her wear. Fitted dresses, heels she claimed were necessary for client presentations. Her makeup routine, previously 10 minutes, stretched to 45. She bought expensive perfume, something musky and heavy that replaced the light citrus scent I'd always associated with her. The fourth thing I noticed was how she talked about work, or rather, how she stopped talking about it. Before the promotion, Emma would come home full of stories about her day, including frustrating coworkers, difficult projects, and small victories. Now she'd offer vague generalities. Work was fine. The team was good. Nothing interesting happened. When I'd ask specific questions about campaigns or clients, she'd change the subject or say she didn't want to bring work stress home. I told myself these were normal adjustments. New job, new pressures, new professional image requirements. I trusted her. We'd built a marriage on trust. 2 months into her new position, Emma started traveling for work. Regional conferences, client meetings, team-building retreats. She'd never traveled much before. Now it was once, sometimes twice a month. She'd leave Thursday evening, return Sunday afternoon. I'd text her good night and get responses hours later. When I tried calling, she'd let it go to voicemail, then text back saying she was in sessions or at dinner with colleagues and would call later. She rarely did. One Saturday morning in October, while Emma was supposedly at a conference in Seattle, I was cleaning our bedroom and knocked her jewelry box off the dresser. Earrings and bracelets scattered across the hardwood. As I gathered everything, I found a receipt folded into a small square, tucked beneath the velvet lining. It was from a high-end restaurant in downtown Portland, dated from the previous Wednesday, a night Emma had told me she was working late at the office. The receipt showed 2 entrees, 2 cocktails, a bottle of wine, and dessert. The The total was $374. My hands went cold holding that slip of paper. Emma and I had a joint account for household expenses, but we maintained separate personal accounts for discretionary spending. This was clearly from her personal card. Who had she been having an expensive dinner with on a Wednesday night while I sat at home eating leftover pasta, believing she was in back-to-back meetings? I almost confronted her when she got home from Seattle that Sunday. Almost. But something stopped me. Maybe it was fear of what her answer would be. Maybe it was hoping there was an innocent explanation I couldn't see yet. I put the receipt back where I found it and said nothing. The following week, Emma mentioned casually that she'd been assigned a new client account. Some tech startup founder who was very particular and demanding. She rolled her eyes when she said it, complained about how he wanted meetings at odd hours and had no respect for work-life boundaries. She said his name was Jordan. I asked what his company did, and she gave a vague answer about cryptocurrency platforms or blockchain something. I didn't push. Everything came to a head on a Wednesday in early November. I'd taken the afternoon off work for a dentist appointment that got canceled last minute. Around 2:30, Emma texted me asking if I could bring her laptop charger to her office. She'd forgotten it at home that morning and had a crucial presentation at 4. Her laptop was dying. The text felt urgent, almost panicked. She said she'd leave a visitor badge for me at the front desk and I could just drop it at her cubicle since she'd be in the conference room preparing. I found the charger tangled behind our couch where she must have been working the night before. I drove downtown, parked in the visitor lot, went through the lobby. The receptionist handed me a badge without looking up. I took the elevator to the 6th floor where Emma's department occupied half the space. The office was open plan, all glass and chrome and expensive ergonomic furniture. I'd only been there once before, briefly, back when Emma first started at the company years ago. I walked toward where I vaguely remembered her desk being, past busy people on phone calls and staring at monitors. Then I saw her name on a placard. Emma Chun, Senior Marketing Director. But she wasn't at her desk. I was about to leave the charger and go when I noticed her computer monitor was on, unlocked, displaying her email inbox. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But my eyes caught a subject line before my brain could stop them. The words read, "Tomorrow night, same hotel?" My heart started hammering. I glanced around. No one was paying attention to me. I leaned closer and read the preview text beneath the subject line. The sender was listed as Jordan Hale. The preview read, "Can't stop thinking about last weekend. Tell Marcus you're traveling again. I've already booked the suite." Time seemed to slow down. My vision tunneled. I could hear my pulse in my ears. My hand moved without conscious thought and touched the mouse. The email opened fully. The message detailed plans for a secret meeting, references to previous encounters, intimate suggestions that made my stomach turn. Below that email were dozens more. I started scrolling, clicking, reading fragments that shattered everything I thought I knew about my marriage. There were questions about whether I suspected anything. Comments about how Emma didn't wear her wedding ring when they were together. Suggestions that she should leave me. Promises that eventually she'd have to choose. There were responses from Emma's account. I read them in her voice, though they sounded like a stranger. Words about how I was stable but boring. How Jordan made her feel alive again. Descriptions of their encounters that made me grip the desk to keep from collapsing. I stood there, hand trembling, trying to comprehend the scope of the deception. How long had I been reading? 2 minutes? 5? I heard voices approaching and quickly stepped back, clutching the laptop charger. 2 women walked past, laughing about something. Neither glanced at me. I set the charger on Emma's desk, positioned exactly in the center of her keyboard. Then I turned and walked out of that office, down the elevator, through the lobby, into my car. I sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, staring at the steering wheel, trying to organize the chaos in my head. I didn't go home. I couldn't face the house yet, the bed we shared, the coffee maker she used every morning, the garden she'd abandoned and I'd maintained because I thought I was supporting her busy new life. Instead, I drove to a coffee shop near the waterfront, found a corner table, and started making a list on my phone. Not an emotional list, a practical one. What I knew for certain. Emma was having an affair with Jordan Hale, her client. It had been going on for months, at least since August. They met in hotel rooms during her fake work trips. She'd been lying to me systematically, elaborately. She'd been planning to leave me eventually, just waiting for the right time. What I needed to do: secure my finances, document the evidence, find a lawyer, tell someone I trusted. Not confront Emma yet, not until I had a plan. I called my older brother Daniel, who lived in Eugene. I told him everything in a flat, mechanical voice. He listened without interrupting, then insisted I come stay with him for a few days. He told me I couldn't go home and pretend everything was normal, that I'd either explode or Emma would sense something was wrong. He said I needed space to process this. He was right. I went home while Emma was still at work. I packed a duffel bag with clothes and toiletries, grabbed my laptop and some important documents. I left a note on the kitchen counter, brief and vague, about a family emergency with Daniel and heading to Eugene for a few days. Then I got in my car and drove south. I stayed at Daniel's for 3 days. During that time, I ignored most of Emma's calls and texts. She'd seen my note and seemed more annoyed than concerned. Her messages were impatient, asking what was going on and when I'd be back, complaining that I could have given her more notice. I responded minimally, saying I was dealing with some things and would be back by the weekend. During those 3 days, I consulted with a divorce attorney Daniel recommended. I opened a separate bank account and transferred half of our joint savings. I took screenshots of Emma's emails, though I felt sick doing it. I called a locksmith and scheduled them to change our house locks for Monday morning. On Friday evening, Daniel asked me what I was going to do when I confronted her. I told him I didn't know yet. Part of me wanted to lay everything out calmly, present the evidence, ask for the truth. Part of me wanted to scream. Part of me wanted to say nothing at all and just serve her divorce papers. What ended up happening was something else entirely. I drove back to Portland Saturday morning. When I pulled into our driveway around 11, there was an unfamiliar car parked on the street in front of our house. A black Tesla Model S. Expensive. The vanity plate read BLKCHN1. I sat in my car for a moment, processing. Then I got out, walked to the front door, and opened it with my key. Inside, I could hear voices from the living room. Laughter. Emma's voice, light and musical in a way I hadn't heard in months. A man's voice, deep and confident. I walked down the hallway and stood in the doorway to the living room. Emma was on the couch, leaning against a man who had his arm around her shoulders. He was mid-30s, wearing designer jeans and an expensive-looking sweater. They were watching something on TV, a bottle of wine open on the coffee table. Emma saw me first. Her face went through a rapid succession of emotions. Surprise, confusion, fear, then something that almost looked like defiance. The man looked over with raised eyebrows, introducing himself casually as Jordan and making a comment about me being Marcus. He didn't remove his arm from Emma's shoulders. I stood there, duffel bag still in my hand. My voice came out quieter than I expected, simply stating that I'd come back early. Emma stood up quickly, smoothing her shirt, introducing Jordan as a client and claiming they were going over campaign materials for his company. Jordan remained seated, looking amused, repeating her words with obvious sarcasm. The audacity of the lie, delivered to my face in my own living room, did something to me. I started laughing, not hysterical laughter, just genuine amusement at the absurdity. Emma's face flushed, asking what was so funny. I set my duffel bag down and explained calmly that I'd brought her laptop charger to her office on Wednesday, that she'd left her email open, that I'd read everything. The color drained from Emma's face. Jordan's smirk faltered. I continued, telling her she didn't need to lie anymore. I outlined everything I knew about the hotels, the fake conferences, all of it. I explained that I'd already talked to a lawyer, moved money out of our joint account, and scheduled the locks to be changed Monday morning. I gave her the weekend to pack her things and figure out where she'd be staying, suggesting that Jordan's place seemed like an option since he appeared comfortable drinking wine on our couch. Emma tried to interrupt, to explain, claiming it wasn't what I thought. I cut her off, saying it was exactly what I thought, that I'd read her emails, her own words describing how she felt about me. I told her I was done. Jordan stood up suddenly, looking less confident, suggesting he should probably leave. I agreed that was smart. He grabbed his jacket and walked toward the door. Emma followed him, whispering something I couldn't hear. I heard the front door open and close. Then Emma came back into the living room alone. She tried to initiate a conversation, asking if we could talk about it. I refused. I told her to pack her things and leave, giving her until Sunday night. She started crying then, mascara running down her cheeks. She claimed she'd made a mistake, that she'd gotten caught up in something that made her feel wanted and exciting. She insisted she loved me, that we'd built a life together, begging me not to throw it away. I told her she'd already thrown it away, that I was just acknowledging what she'd done. Emma left that night. She packed 2 suitcases and loaded them into her car while I sat in the kitchen, staring at the wall. She tried to talk to me several times, but I didn't respond. Eventually, she left. Over the next few weeks, we communicated only through our lawyers. Emma wanted to try counseling, wanted to work things out, claimed Jordan had been a mistake and she'd ended it. I didn't believe her. Even if it was true, it didn't matter. Some things, once broken, can't be fixed. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. Emma got the house since her name was primarily on the mortgage. I took my share of the equity and moved into a smaller apartment in Northeast Portland. I kept the furniture I cared about and let her have the rest. I heard through mutual friends that Emma and Jordan didn't last. Apparently, when the affair became real, when she was actually available and no longer the exciting secret, he lost interest. Last I heard, Emma was still living in our old house, working at the same company, dating someone new. It's been almost 8 months now since that Wednesday afternoon in her office. I'm doing better than I expected. I've been focusing on work, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected during the marriage. I joined a hiking group and started going on weekend trips to the gorge and the coast. I've been reading more, sleeping better, actually enjoying my own company. Last month, I went on a few dates with someone I met at a coffee shop, a teacher named Rachel. It's casual, nothing serious, but it's nice. She's kind and straightforward in a way I'd forgotten people could be. She knows the basics of what happened with Emma, but we don't dwell on it. We have better things to talk about. Sometimes I wonder what I missed, what signs I ignored because I wanted to believe everything was fine. But I've stopped torturing myself with those questions. The truth is, Emma made her choices. She lied, strategically and repeatedly, because she wanted to have both lives until she decided which one she preferred. That's on her, not on me. I don't hate her. Honestly, I feel mostly nothing when I think about her now. Maybe that's the saddest part, how someone who was the center of my world for 9 years can become just a person I used to know. But here's what I've learned. Trust, once broken so completely, doesn't heal. And that's okay. Not every ending needs to be fixed or forgiven. Sometimes walking away and building something new is the only healthy choice. So when Emma texted me last week, asking if we could meet for coffee to talk, I didn't respond. There's nothing left to say. The conversation ended the moment I saw those emails on her unlocked screen. The moment I understood that the person I thought I married had been disappearing in small increments for months, while I watered her garden and believed her lies. I'm not the same person I was that Wednesday afternoon. I'm angrier, sure, but also clearer. I know what I deserve now. I know what I won't tolerate. And I know that sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is having your illusions shattered, because living inside a beautiful lie is its own kind of prison. And now I have a question for you. If you found evidence of betrayal, would you confront it immediately, or would you plan your exit strategy first? Because in those moments, when the ground falls out from under your life, the choices you make define everything that comes next. I chose clarity over confrontation, strategy over emotion, and that choice set me free.